Welcome to Employment Law This Week. I'm George Whipple. Vaccines, they are the current phase of this pandemic for employers to navigate. With evolving guidance coming from government agencies, employers are unsure what to consider when crafting vaccination policies. Epstein, Becker Green's Jennifer Barna and Nathaniel Glasser are here with some advice.
The EEOC has issued guidance indicating that employers may require their employees to be vaccinated before coming back to the workplace. For those employers that do choose to implement a mandatory vaccination policy, there are a number of administrative issues that they should be thinking about. Number one is whether they have to pay their employees for the time that it takes for them to get vaccinated. There are a number of states, New York and California included, that require employees to be paid time that it takes to get vaccinated. And we would suggest that any employer implementing a mandatory policy should do so. And number two is whether to issue a deadline by which employees need to be vaccinated so that you give an appropriate amount of time, up to 6 weeks in some cases, for employees to be vaccinated before suffering adverse consequences. And number three is how to treat individuals who may object to being vaccinated and not for a protected reason.
For now, based on CDC and other guidance, employers should be treating vaccinated and unvaccinated persons the same. And where they were requiring mask wearing and social distancing in the office, that should continue regardless of someone's vaccination status. One exception is where someone is fully vaccinated and has been exposed to COVID-19 and has no symptoms, where a state is following the CDC guidance. That person will no longer be required to quarantine and may be allowed to enter the workspace. This may change as time goes on. We are expecting the EEOC to issue further guidance, and the CDC is also likely to change its guidance as the facts evolve and more people get vaccinated.
Under CDC guidance, employers can certainly implement a mandatory vaccination policy. And with respect to most of the workforce, that will mean that unless you're vaccinated, you cannot come into the workplace. However, employers always have to make an exception for individuals with a disability or a sincerely held religious belief that can't get vaccinated. They have to attempt to reasonably accommodate these individuals. In some cases, that might be done by allowing those employees to work from home if they've been working from home, requiring them to test negative, take a test each time they come to the workplace, or simply wear a face mask or face shield or both.
For an employer who wishes to implement a policy that would require vendors to only send vaccinated individuals to the workplace, there are practical and legal considerations. That vendor is also likely an employer and has the obligation to provide reasonable accommodations to people who cannot receive the vaccine for reasons related to a disability or a sincerely held religious belief or practice. For example, if the vendor employer has an employee who cannot receive the vaccine because they're disabled and they have nowhere else to assign that individual, they may be forced to put that person on an unpaid leave or potentially end up terminating that individual. The entity that required the vendor to take that action could potentially be open to liability claims, particularly in jurisdictions where there are joint employer arguments to be made.
In addition, the states are divided with respect to vaccination passports. New York, for instance, recently came out with its own vaccine passport. Texas, Florida, Idaho, and other state governments have issued executive orders that prohibit both state and local governments and private businesses from utilizing vaccine passports. Utah has taken a down-the-middle approach and has prohibited the state and local government from utilizing vaccine passports, but allowing private businesses to do so. But anytime an employer is considering requiring its vendors and visitors to verify vaccination status, they certainly have to take a look to see whether or not these vaccine passport bans apply to them.
Employers should be sure that their vaccination policies comply with all existing federal, state, and sometimes local laws. Employers should also ensure that the people that are charged with carrying these policies out are properly trained. And employers should keep an eye because we are expecting additional guidance from the EEOC as more employers are looking to open up over the summer and as we head to Labor Day. The EEOC has signaled that they'll be providing additional guidance. So employers should make sure that they're ready to revise their policies if and as necessary when that additional guidance comes out.
Thanks, Jennifer and Nathaniel, and thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.